Hey. Basically, I don't like the way that I explained what I'm gonna do. So, this video is it's just gonna be my testimony story. And I just don't like how I explained it because I literally didn't even explain it. I just talked about how I ended up making the video. But yeah, that's what this video is about. Also, I'm gonna explain how I got to making this video because it was like a whole experience, And I did explain it in the video, but I just did not like how it turned out. So I'm just gonna explain it here. I'm sorry that it's like me talking like through photo booth, but whatever. So basically, one night I just couldn't sleep, and when that happens, I just start praying, so that I can talk to God, because sometimes whenever I'm like not able to fall asleep, I'm like, I didn't spend time with God today, so that's probably why I'm like not being able to sleep. God's keeping me up so that I can talk to him, have a conversation with him, because I spent all day not with him. Basically, I was like praying, and I just felt in my spirit God was telling me, you have to share your story as soon as possible, because there's people that need to hear your story. Might help someone, and you just need to tell everyone, stop hiding it, because you need to show people what I can do, what I'm capable of, what God is capable of. Before I heard from God, I had already like known that I was going to sometime make this video, but I was just always afraid to. With the help of the word, I've just realized that there's really nothing that people can say that might stop me from believing in God, or like stop trusting in him. This video is just for people to understand like why I'm Christian, why I've chosen to live for God, and that there is hope for you. Also, basically, everything started when I was like probably like 8 years old. I was introduced to really like inappropriate content videos. That stuff, like being shown to like a young kid, can like totally mess them up, and that's what it did for me. So I didn't have a phone yet, but I would get like my mom's phone and like go on YouTube and search up like random stuff that was like somewhat like sexual, and okay, obviously I knew, like somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew that it was wrong. At that age, like I didn't understand that what I had to do was get serious with God. Like it was never on my mind. I didn't understand salvation that much. I didn't understand that like my decisions were going to determine whether I went to heaven or not. So at that age, I just like, God wasn't my main focus, I guess. Like if someone asked me like, are you Christian, I would have said yes and stuff, but was I really? No. And it doesn't matter if I was just 8 or 9 or whatever, like that doesn't matter. When you understand the difference between what's good and what's wrong, that's when you need to realize, am I gonna follow God or am I not? And obviously not everyone understands that, but like for me, growing up Christian and parents who prayed and read their Bible, and they never hid their faith. My parents always taught me what God wanted and what God asks of us. So when I was like 10, I got my first like device. So I got an iPod, and I guess for like a while those like urges went away. But I remember like randomly one day I was on my iPod, and like I saw these like videos just like show up, and I watched them, and they weren't like super bad. It was just like kissing. But that's what got me going, I guess. I didn't start watching like really inappropriate stuff until I was like maybe like 12 probably, because I remember I still had my iPod, I think, and I guess just from hearing people at school like talk about it, I like searched it up. I'm talking about, it's just so weird like saying it out loud, I'm sorry, but I looked it up and just clicked like the first link, and like when I clicked on it, I was like, I actually don't remember how I reacted, honestly, but my main concern was like not getting caught, and I never did, sadly, because at some point, if I would have gotten caught when I was little, I probably would have stopped. I never did. So those things just went on and on for years. It's not my parents' fault. It's my own fault for not stopping, But I looked up like the real thing that was like the down point, I guess, because that's all I would think about. And like sometimes like I just wouldn't be able to sleep until I like looked at something and like you know. Oh, it's so uncomfortable like talking about this, but you know what people do when they're watching stuff. That's what I would do. It just got so bad, like it didn't matter like where I was or who I was with. I would like try and find somehow to get by myself and look something up and finish and just like, I don't know. But the thing is that even if my body was like, oh, it wasn't even like my body. It was just like Satan like putting thoughts in my head like, oh, you need to watch, you need to do this and that. Like, I think you have a little urge to watch something. So I just didn't know how to deal with that temptation. So I would just like give in, you know, because I was like, what else am I supposed to do? Like, that was my mindset. I was like, I got to the point where I was like, am I ever going to get rid of this? Like, is this going to be my life? And I started trying to convince myself that I was going to have to live with this forever. Like, I didn't understand that there was a chance for me to be saved from that addiction. So yeah, like it didn't matter like where I was, who I was with. If I got the urge to watch something, I would, obviously like hidden. I don't think it's a coincidence that all like my urges would be at night when I'm trying to sleep, you know. So in those moments I was like more vulnerable, because I was just like, I'm not gonna be able to sleep until I do this. And then I would go to sleep because then I would just be tired. So basically was all I watched from like 12 up until I was like 15. Well, I'm still 15, but when I stopped I was 15 still. You can imagine what that could have done to a person. And like the thing is, people are always like, oh, it's normal, like everyone watches it, like it's not bad. But like for me, as someone who understands that there's a good path to follow and the wrong path to follow, I knew that I couldn't be doing those things, you know. And it took me a long time to actually make an effort to change. But I mean, I did get there, obviously, or else I wouldn't be telling the story, you know. So at one point I was like, you know, I'm just gonna stop watching this. But I would get temptations from other apps. So there was this one app, I'll put it right here, and it was like this app where there was just like a bunch of stories, books. The main reason I started reading those books was just like because they weren't like inappropriate, the books I started reading at first. But one day I was reading and I came across like a really sexual scene in that book, and I was like, wait. And obviously I was still in that mindset, so that like got me a little excited. That's when that started, where I would only read like really like inappropriate books. Like some were like super detailed, like literally with words, in just words, you know, but it was the same thing. So I would try to convince myself like, oh, it's just like a book, like it's not the actual thing. But in my mind, like those images were like there, so like what was the difference, you know? So I finally realized I should delete this, like this is a problem. So I deleted it. But then another app would find its way to show me something that I knew that I shouldn't have been watching. Twitter became a problem really quick, because like one day I was just like scrolling through my timeline and like someone had retweeted like some video of people like making out, I think. And so like I clicked the account, things just went downhill, you know. I found like multiple accounts of like actual, like on Twitter. So I had stopped, you know, like looking up, but like I was still watching it somewhere else, you know. So like what did that do, you know? So what I started doing was blocking the accounts, like all the accounts that I like had remembered, you know, because I had like the ads memorized and everything. I had blocked all of them, but that didn't work at all, because when I would get a little temptation and I would get like that urge to like satisfy my carnal desires, I would just go to my blocked accounts, scroll down, look for them, and just like watch something get off and then feel guilty. So I did ask on my Instagram, like, if you have any questions for me about like my story, I'll like answer them. I'll put the question that I'm answering right here. So the turning point was when I realized that if I die right now, I would literally not, like, no chance I would be in heaven. And that kind of freaked me out because I was like, I don't want to go to hell, you know. I also had watched some testimonies of like young people. I saw one. I'll try to find it and I'll put it right here. And I watched that one day, and what he was saying at the end of like telling his story, he was like, get serious. It doesn't matter if you're young or if you're old, like, just get serious. That testimony in like specific opened my eyes and made me realize that the way I was living wasn't right, and you know, that my decisions that I had been making were leading me to hell. So yeah, that was like the beginning, but the turning point, like that actual thing, I'm gonna explain it later. So to answer his question, he said, what was the breaking point for you where you realized you couldn't do it anymore on your own? So I remember it was one night, it was like July. It was like 5 a.m. I had just finished, you know, doing what I did. I just broke down. Like, I literally just like broke down for the first time. And I just started crying out to God, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, please take this from me. Like, I realized that I've been living against you for so long, but you're still here. Like, you've showed me your love, your mercy, and the only thing I've done was sin against you. Like, I want to start living for you. No matter what I said to convince myself that what I was doing was right, I would just feel worse, you know? I recognized that without God, I wasn't going to get anywhere. And so that's what made me realize that I couldn't do this anymore on my own. And like the Bible says, that we can't rely on our own strength. But it's not exactly what I was thinking, but Proverbs 3:5-6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek his will in all you do, and he will show you which path to take. Actually, that is a good one. So when I realized that what I had to do was follow God and not my worldly desires, things started clearing up, and I started recognizing all the areas in my life that needed to be fixed, and I let God take control. From that point, I started like reading my Bible more. I started at Matthew, and right now I'm at I finished 2nd John today, but I'm going on to 3rd John. I'm almost done with like the whole New Testament, and I started reading back in July, and like I have a whole highlight on my Instagram of like when I first started reading up until now. The whole experience of me dealing with pornography and masturbation made me realize how much I needed God. And like sometimes I would even tell myself, like, if I have to go through years of this to find God, then so be it. And I mean, I found God. And sometimes, you know, God will take us through really difficult situations so that we can realize that we can't do it on our own and that we need him. My whole goal, I guess, for this video is for people to understand that like no matter what you've done or what you've gone through, that there's a God who wants to be there for you, and that he died for you, and that those sins will be washed away when you ask him for forgiveness, and when you accept God into your life, and when you accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior. So I literally have no idea if I made any sense or if I even like covered all the things that I wanted to talk about. Literally all thoughts fly out of my head whenever I record a video where I'm just talking. One more thing that I want to mention about how these sins messed me up is the way that it made me view relationships and like guys in general. Literally, like anytime I would see a couple on the internet, it would make me feel like I was doing something wrong for not being in one. Because like from watching stuff like that, I started thinking like, this is something I should be doing too. If it's so normalized, then what's wrong with me, and why am I not experiencing something like that with a guy, you know? It just got so bad that I wished to be in a relationship just for the purpose of doing, you know, intimate stuff. And like in the moment, I just never realized how wrong that was. Thank God, you know, I never got the opportunity to, you know, meet a guy because I know that things would have gone wrong probably, because my worldly desires were a little too strong. Also, like, social media made me believe that I have to be in a relationship as a teenager. If you're literally still a teen, like, you should be enjoying your like childhood, like you're still a kid. I'm telling you from someone who's 15, about to turn 16. Like, I wish somebody would have told me relationships and being with guys is not the main thing that you should be worrying about, you know? Like, you have your friends, you have your life, and, you know, if you're Christian, you know, it doesn't matter if you're young, you can be building that relationship with God at a young age. And, like, it's just social media, movies, TV shows. A lot of movies and TV shows, like, their main focus is like teenage romance. What they don't realize is that putting stuff like that out for young people to see will start making them think that they should be having sex at a young age, that they should be having so many relationships at a young age. But you don't, like, you shouldn't, because you're a kid. You're literally a kid. You shouldn't be, you know, just sleeping around with people until you're of age, you know, until you're with that person that, you know, that you're gonna be with. I wish the media, like, didn't make people think that relationships are what you should be worried about. And, like, if you're a young person, don't let those shows that you watch make you think that there's something wrong with you because you're not in a relationship, or because guys don't talk to you, or whatever. That just shouldn't be your main concern right now. You'll find someone when you're older, and trust me, it'll be much better when you're more mature than at like 13, because I don't know, it's really not the most important thing. And yeah, that was just like my little rant, my advice to any young people who think that there's something wrong with them because you're not in a relationship. All right, bye. But another question that someone else asked was, how do you know when God is talking to you? For a long time, I asked myself the same question, and I would tell myself, like, why isn't God talking to me? Like, why do I not hear from God like all these other people say they do, you know? And one of my pastors, Pastor Naum, whenever we went to Chicago for the baptism, in his preaching for the prayer service, he gave us an example of someone who asked him the same thing. He said that a girl came up to him and was asking that, my mom is asking, like, why can she not hear God? And he was like, okay, well, you can hear me speaking to you, right? And he was like, well, you can hear me because I'm close to you, you know? And she was like, and then he was like, well, that's the same thing with God. If you're close to him and you have devoted your life to him, when we're like close with him and have like a relationship with him truly, God will start speaking to us. You know, it can be in many forms: dreams, visions, you know, like through the Holy Spirit when we're praying. It can be like an actual voice. I've had like a few experiences, but all these things happened when I truly started following God. But like, why would he speak to you, you know, when you're still living in the world, you know, when you're still bound by sin and when you're still living in sin? So hopefully that answers your question. And I guess you know when he's talking to you because hopefully you understand the difference between, you know, Satan and God. I don't think I'm like really good at explaining anything. This video is literally an example of that. But the Bible in Proverbs talks a lot about wisdom, right? And it says that when we ask for wisdom, we will gain wisdom. Like, God is going to give us wisdom when we ask for it, because he is giving it away, you know, like he wants us to have wisdom. And wisdom means that we will have discernment, which means that we will understand between what's wrong and what is right. So when God speaks to us, we will be able to understand that it's God because of that wisdom that we hold, you know, God, the wisdom that God has given us. And so, like, we shouldn't have, like, a doubt that it isn't God, you know? But whenever we hear something that doesn't sound like God, we'll be able to understand that it's like the devil trying to, you know, feed us lies. And so that's why it's really important to ask God for wisdom so that we can have discernment between, you know, the different things that we hear in our spirit. I think I'm going to end this video. I'm not sure if I made any sense or if I truly explained my story well, but my hope is that someone, at least one person, listened all the way through and realized that they're not alone. You know, it's just, I hope my testimony helps others who are in the same situation realize that there is hope. It's not going to be easy. You know, no one said being Christian is going to be easy. If anything, it's going to be really difficult. In those moments of difficulty is when we need to stand up in faith and realize that there is a God that is bigger than our problems, than our circumstances, and that when we trust Him, you know, those problems and those situations won't defeat us. So yeah, that was my story, my testimony, you know, all that I went through to finally realize that God was my only hope. I just want to give Him all the thanks, all the glory, because without Him, I would still be that same person, living in sin, serving the world. I feel truly confident that I will be with Him one day at the end of my road. I just want you to understand that no matter what you've done, that there is a chance for you. I just don't want anyone to end up in such a terrible place. But obviously, not everyone is going to choose to believe it, and that's a sad thing. I just hope that this video reaches as many people as it needs to, that it impacts someone, at least one person. I hope that this doesn't change your view on me in a bad way. I just want people to understand why I believe in God. But I'm gonna go now. Love y'all. Don't forget, there's someone out there who loves you and wants to get to know you. So don't let your past keep you from following Him. All right, peace out.